Greetings, and welcome in, everyone, to Understanding CBD. This is episode number 47. It's our Free Marijuana in Maryland episode. I am Stephen Wallman.
I am Max Sobel.
And we're broadcasting live here in the studio this beautiful Sunday afternoon. Yeah, we got to get Max's... Max, are you here?
I am Max Sobel. No problem, Noah. Peace train, baby. No problem.
There we are. It's the Peace Chain. We're working today. Before we get started, I always have to mention that this information we discuss on this radio program today is for information and educational entertainment purposes only. Don't take anything as medical or legal advice.
Never.
That's just not something that you should be doing. But we are live in the studio today, and you know what's cool about that, Max?
Well, I mean, I guess I can sulk here in person with you about that poor Ravens loss, you know what I mean? So along with the audience, right?
Yeah, it was tough.
But really, what's cool about it being live in the studio is that we can take your questions live. So you're not just listening to what we already have scripted. You can call in and get your questions answered.
Yeah, we talk about that all the time, everybody. Please, we prepare a good show for you, but we'd much rather hear what you have to say. Yeah. The best way to do that is giving us a call. We got Noah, our engineer, in the studio. He's going to take your phone call. You can... you don't even have to get on the air, but give us a call at 410-922-6680. You can call with your question if it's for us or our guests. It really doesn't matter. But, you also don't only have to listen on the radio.
That's right.
If you don't have an AM radio.
That's right. You can go to understandingcbd.com and click on the Listen Live button at the top of the page. And rumor has it, they say that Alexa will get you there as well.
And it was validated also. Good. That is true. Right, Noah? No, that is true. He did approve that. And my mother does as well. So Thank you, Gia, Grandma Janet. Right? That's true. We definitely have got to mention the fact that we are also recording these, right?
Yeah, you can listen on any podcast service. So if you like to listen on Apple iTunes or your Amazon or your Google Play or whatever, Spotify, Pandora, anywhere you like, you can get all of these episodes. Just search for Understanding CBD with Max and Steven.
Yes, and you can even get them on video, too.
That's right, YouTube. Very cool. Totally different experience now. You can go to Understanding CBD, and you can look for the little YouTube icon, and that'll take you right to our new YouTube channel. Like and subscribe. When you get to that channel, let us know you love us.
That's right.
We appreciate that.
That's how it works. So easy. We're getting with it, guys. We're getting with it. We can't ever forget to thank our sponsor, because without Max and Steven's premium hemp extracts and the wonderful business that they do, the show wouldn't even be possible, would it?
No, it wouldn't be possible. Coincidence.
It is a coincidence. To get in touch with Max and Steven's, they have the best, purest, full-spectrum hemp oil, hemp extract. It's 443-743-2444. That number you can call and text.
That's right. And you can also visit the website, www.maxandstevens.com. That's the word "and" spelled out, and Stevens with a V like Victor. Pick up a bottle of their CBD drops for yourself, for a loved one, for a pet, anybody you like.
I love when we do these commercials. It's so much fun. We have fun for you all. We do, really. We have to get to this song, Max. Tell me about your selection. What a beautiful...
Isn't it obvious? Huh? Isn't it obvious? I think it's an appropriate song to get the audience uplifted. And, I, as well as you, Stephen, I know we're always on the peace train. We're always looking for love and light. And, moving forward, we're not dwelling on the past. We're not sitting there thinking down about things. We're only ever thinking about forward movement and the peace train. So, actually, that song, Cat Stevens, 1971. And what's interesting that I learned doing a little research is that he wrote that song while on the train, thinking about, of all people, Alfred Hitchcock, because Alfred Hitchcock had a lot of movies that were train-related or stories that were train-related. So just an interesting tidbit. That's where he wrote that song. I also understand there was a bit of controversy about that song in his life in general, but let's not judge him for that. Let's enjoy the song, because the song is what it is, the Peace Train.
Peace Train, that's true. And it's actually, I'm glad you wrote, people may not know, these are surprises, so I had no idea this was going to happen.
Yeah.
And I wanted to actually start today, after we talked about the song, which is fabulous, and I love that song, was to start with a prayer, if it's all right with you. I know that's not like me, but... One condition.
Yeah. You can't end it with amen and a women. All right? Okay. You gotta pick one.
Okay. All right? That's true. But we definitely, for me, especially this episode, it's important to start with something, if not for me, maybe there's one other person out there that would also benefit from these words. I didn't write it myself, but I'd like to deliver it to you now, Max. Is that all right?
Yes.
All right. Give us courage to change what must be altered, the serenity to accept what cannot be helped, and the insight to know one from the other.
Amen.
Thank you. I love you all. Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
I love it. You got me all choked up here. Listen, I got to take a little drink of water here. Why the prayer? Why today?
As we went to our Ho'oponopono episode, if you want to take back a look at that, and anytime things go on externally, I always internalize them. So for me, this time with all both the country really split, it's a good time to remember that there's a lot of things in this world that each one of us don't have a direct impact on, that we just can't change. However, there are many, 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 many things that we can impact directly, and everyone listening has the power to do that. And what I ask for here in this prayer is for the courage to allow us. And we have a big battle today. So, our topic, and I didn't mean to trick anyone about free marijuana, but we're not giving away free marijuana in Maryland, but we're talking about liberating.
Legalizing it, right. That's what we mean. We mean unrestrain it, let it go, and legalize it, and let it be available.
Right. So we have some guests today on the show, one or two guests at least. Luke Jones, Executive Director at Maryland NORML, is going to join us today. And NORML stands for National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws. He's going to discuss the current and potential future of marijuana, not only in the country, but also even more specifically in the state of Maryland.
Mm-hmm. Yep, looking forward to that chat.
Hopefully in a few minutes we have Kevin Addix. He's going to give us an update on the hemp industry.
Great.
In Maryland. There's a new legislative session in Maryland. I know that there are some bills that are definitely going to be impacting that industry for us in Maryland. No Doc G's Corner this week, but you'll be happy to hear next week. Max, what's next week? Tell them.
Next week, it's a show dedicated to Doc G. Doc G will not only be our main guest, but he'll have his corner, so he'll have a whole lot of time to educate this audience so that you can see who the real Doc G is.
Yeah, so we get a lot of questions here and there about it, and it's enough to really get a show going. And if you have any questions for Doc G, how he makes some of his treatments, what sort of things does he like to do, or some of his past and history. He's got great stories to tell. Shoot us a message, hello@understandingcbd.com, or anywhere on our...
And hint, he loves answering questions. So don't forget to call in on the show next week, because he loves answering questions live.
Right. And then after we finish up with Luke today, we have everyone's favorite segment that Noah plays the theme song for.
Thank you, Noah.
Baby. Mail sack. That's right. That's what we got going on here.
Now, you guys might be all asking, why are Max and Steven, the hemp guys, having a show focused on marijuana? And, we have a reason. So if any of you actually listen to our show or watch our show, episode 42, we had a cool guy, Shorty Rossi, the pit boss, on. And one of the things that he said that really stuck out in our minds, right, Steven, was you got to have a passion for something else. I mean, you got to have a passion for something that you truly believe in. And clearly our passion is hemp, and our passion is this wonderful plant for you to be able to heal yourself and get better and move forward with the things that ail you. A couple of things that really trigger us and really get us moving in certain directions is the fact that the lives of veterans' families are affected. I mean, there are 22 veteran suicides a day, right? Isn't that crazy statistics? Steve?
Yeah, and our guest Steve Elmore with the.
With his movie Unprescribed.
The movie Unprescribed. Thanks, Max.
No problem, yeah.
That's also a great podcast we had. I mean, these things, this is why we do what we do.
I mean, another passion of ours is the fact that, we're talking about prescriptions, and we've had so many episodes related to the prescription problem. And, these things, they affect families. I mean, Stephen has some great statistics here. 131 million people in the U.S., or 66% of adults are on prescriptions.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a huge cost.
Yeah, it's a huge cost, and the challenge is because they're this polypharmacy concept where they're taking multiple prescriptions, there's really no way to understand the interactions between these different drugs. So it's a reason why because cannabis can help.
Yeah, and you know, the cost of these drugs is just the tip of the iceberg. What about potential side effects?
That's it.
You know, and just the way that it affects you in general. I mean, it's a real problem. And then the last thing, folks, and you have to understand this, American farmers and small businesses, I mean, we are a small business. We support American farmers in general. I mean, we cannot have or let the corporations take all of this over. We have to make sure that we fight for equality in that perspective. And, you know, censorship is a problem, and and a lot of these small businesses are affected by that, and we'll talk about that later.
Yeah, and that's true. I mean, a lot of people may not realize that the time we're living in right now is when the infrastructure or architecture or whatever you want to call it, the laws and legislation on marijuana and hemp are being laid for the future. So there's a lot of things that need to be taken into consideration. The things that Max and I are mentioning is why. We want to make sure we're looking out for our veterans and making sure they're being taken care of. We want to make sure that these new laws are taking in consideration some sort of equity in the business world, so all the advantages isn't going to the big guys, and we don't have like big tobacco and big pharmacy coming up and scooping up the industry. And then the next thing you know, where does that leave our farmers? Where does that leave our business? Where does that leave the industry in Maryland?
And hence, free marijuana, free cannabis, free hemp. At the end of the day, give us the opportunity.
That's right, right. And, I know we got to take a break here. When we come back, we're going to have Luke Jones with us. He's an expert on this. This guy's just the right person to have on this conversation. So
100%.
We appreciate you guys listening in, and stay with us. We'll be right back with you. Welcome back to Understanding CBD with Max and Steven. I am Steven Wallman.
I am Max Sobel, digging this groove.
That's right. Hard not to lay down some lyrics on that fine beat. That is
COVID-free in the place to be, as I always say.
Trombone Shorty, Shortyville. Thanks for that inspiration for our next guest. Mac's going to introduce him in a minute. But first, if you'd like to speak to Luke Jones, who's calling our guest today, Max or I have a question. The number to call us is 410-922-6680. Today, we're talking about freeing marijuana. And joining our discussion, we have a special guest.
Right. So we've got Luke Jones. Luke Jones is the executive director of Maryland NORML. NORML is the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws, for those that you don't know. Luke's got 30 years advising the government. 30 years, Luke. You know, it's an impressive thing, and I can't wait to hear about. Look, Luke, other than having an awesome sense in music and a real good taste, I got to tell you, that's one of the best intros, right? Luke, how you been, buddy? How are you?
I'm doing great. It's really nice to be on your show today, Max and Steve. Thanks for having me on.
Fantastic, fantastic. You know, we are completely honored to have you here. In 30 years working in government affairs, public affairs, policy, you must use a lot of cannabis. But what keeps you going? It's such a challenging task, honestly. And why do you do this, Luke?
Wow, thanks for that question. You know, to be honest with you, I have to believe we can solve problems working together. You know, we've got a lot of problems, and, you know, if we can't solve the ones we agree on, we're in bad trouble. This one seems to be one that pretty much everybody agrees on. So if we can demonstrate we can get it together and solve this problem, I think we can move on and solve some other ones too.
Interesting. So it hasn't always been that way, though, has it, Luke? Now, it sounds like you're saying like it's low-hanging fruit, and this is something that may be almost at the goal line, you think?
Well, absolutely, we're at the goal line now.
But it hasn't always been this way.
No, it really hasn't always been this way. You know, when we started as an organization, the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws, public opinion was, you know, down around 12% for legalizing, you know, the personal use and possession of marijuana. And we're in the 70s now, and it's only going up as people realize that it's one of the most in some ways, very minor, kind of inconsequential policy changes that we are confronting. You know, in so many ways, it seems like a huge, huge change. And then when the change comes, we think, well, that wasn't such a big deal after all, you know?
Right. It's like when Max and I finally get famous, it'll seem like it's an overnight success. Right?
We're not famous yet, you mean?
So, Luke, you know, we have so much to cover today. Did you want to start with what's happening federally, or did you want to start with locally in what's happening here in Maryland?
I'd like to jump right in and use. I'd like to talk about a couple of things. First of all, this is a nonpartisan issue. When we talk about changing our marijuana laws, people approach it from different reasons. People approach it for health reasons. People approach it for economic, rational reasons. People approach it for criminal justice reasons. There's a whole bunch of reasons. It's a really nonpartisan issue, and so that's really exciting. And I kind of wanted to touch about that a little bit because, at the heart of this policy is that we're going to treat this plant, cannabis plant, as if it's really a dangerous plant, and it's a dangerous force in our society. But really, the justification was never really about that. It really was about enforcing, pretty racist public policy priorities. There was a pretty known intentionality that this would be something that we would be enforcing in a disproportionate way right out of the gate. So, from a public policy perspective, bringing police officers, courts, into how we handle cannabis in our society was never a good idea, and it never produced positive, outcomes. So there's a real nanny state mentality behind this, where the government reaches into our private personal lives, and this is one example. And it's really odious because, any rational, grown adult person realizes that you don't have to agree with cannabis, but treating people like criminals because they're engaged in risky, behavior that you may consider to be, risky or something is not grounds to arrest them.
Right. Now, Luke, I got a question for you. And now, do you think it's more of, as soon as they started down this road of prohibition, they immediately knew that there was something wrong with it, and it is just taken this long to unwind? Or has something recently happened that you've seen in the past 30 years was like a tipping point maybe?
We've obviously reached a tipping point. I think that people will look back during the Obama administration at that Cole memo that gave the green light to, for states to go ahead and start regulating adult cannabis sales, marijuana sales, is evidence of that shift. And so I think we've fully turned that corner now, and people are just trying to figure out how to go about legalizing it. And one of the things we confront in this work a lot is a distinction between decrim and legalization, because legalization is complicated. You have to figure out what the tax rates will be and who gets to play in a legal market when you set up legal, commercial exchanges. Decriminalizing is where we stop arresting people, and so those two issues always get kind of tangled up around each other. And we think legalization is critical. We're on the cusp of legalization. But in the meantime, we're continuing to arrest people. We have about 17,000 people every year in Maryland that are arrested just for marijuana possession alone. And it's many thousands more encounters with the police that don't wind up leading to an arrest. So what we're talking about is about 60% of all drug-related arrests in the state right now, even under our medical program for marijuana, 60% of all of our drug-related arrests in the state are still marijuana. So this is a human rights abuse. It's a human rights violation. It's something that has to end immediately. And figuring out the ins and outs of a commercial market are tough, but it doesn't serve anybody's interest to keep sending police officers after people.
Luke, a question for you. So advising these federal agencies, that has to be a task. We Stephen and I have a little bit of experience, so we've actually been there and done that at nothing compared to what you do. But we were irritated and frustrated after the first 5 minutes. And, it's not because there wasn't a reason to be. But, Luke, talk to us about that. how difficult is getting the message over to the federal agencies?
Yeah, and to give you an experience, a short understanding is, you've seen what the state capitol, the House, these offices look like. They're pretty small offices, and they jam a lot of people in there. And if you're lucky enough to get on the calendar and a schedule to one of the the representatives, if you get them, you might get an aide. If they're not necessarily open to what you have to say, you may have a meeting in the bathroom.
I mean, how many meetings have we had in the hallway, drive-by meetings, it seems like, that type of thing.
And you go on a day, you try to get as many meetings as possible.
Right.
And, so go ahead. Sorry.
Well, Max and Steve, let me talk about that, because one of the things we find out really quickly as citizens is that our elected officials are surrounded by people trying to talk to them every day, and most of them are paid to be there. All right, and so the average person, doesn't have the wherewithal, to gain the attention of these people and to have a big, impactful voice on policy. So one of the things we've been trying to do, is facilitate people to have a voice in that process. Now, I don't do a lot of, blame gaming on people, because what I notice very strongly, Max and Steve, is that when we go to Washington to lobby for cannabis policy reform, we let people know well in advance when the opportunity is there, and it's the same 10 people who show up, and Maryland is very close to Washington. There's millions of people in the state. There's tens of thousands of people, who agree that our policies and laws need to change, but who actually shows up, and a lot of times I talk to folks who don't understand why public policy is what it is, and they just don't even know who represents them in Annapolis or what the process is or how to get involved. So that's where organizations like Maryland NORML come in, and they provide a little institutional stability for people, so you can begin to get answers to questions like, how do we have a voice in the process?
Yeah, and that's extremely, extremely valuable. I can't stress it enough for anyone to find out who your representatives are in your state, and then also who's representing you federally, and send them an email, get some sort of communication with them, because through all this censorship that is out there now, where people are claiming censorship, you can't get your message out. Influence your friends through conversations, but you have a direct connection to each one of your representatives, and they have no choice but to listen to you. They have to read your emails. They have to respond. And the more you hear, the better. They hear from you, the better.
For those of us just joining us, we're listening and we're talking to Luke Jones, the executive director of Maryland NORML. That's the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws. Luke, I want to thank you again for being with us. Question for you. So to that extent, and really meeting with your delegates and speaking to your people, and certainly the work that you do, seems a bit like a thankless job. Would you say?
Yeah, well, it can be, but that's okay.
Gotta have a passion.
I have a lot of fun doing it, and what I choose to do. I'm a family man. I'm a full-time employee. I don't do this full-time. I just choose not to spend a lot of frivolous time paying attention to what clothes Beyonce is wearing, or I don't follow every statistics on sports, and I don't play video games. The information really is available for folks that want to get involved, and that's what I found. Can I just share a couple things with you? About my own choices to spend some of my personal time on this issue. I had a neighbor. I wasn't involved in marijuana or cannabis or anything like that. But a neighbor of mine came by and he said, he knew that I didn't drink. I don't drink. And, he said, well, do you use marijuana? And I said, well, I did when I was a kid, but that was a long time ago. But I wasn't opposed to it, or anything. And then the next thing I know, come to find out that there's all kinds of people on my street, literally in my immediate neighborhood, who are, casually, from time to time, using marijuana. And I start to realize, what is the big deal here? Why are we arresting people? And I realize they're not arresting people in my neighborhood. I live in a very comfortable neighborhood in Silver Spring. We wave to our neighbors and all of that. And the cops aren't chasing us around, to make their quotas at the end of the month. They're chasing the kids in Baltimore around and Prince George's County around and throwing them into jail when they're 19 and stuff like that. And it's a disaster, so I'm ashamed. I just literally felt ashamed, that we were still doing this kind of behavior. So I just started making calls and getting involved and talking to people. And it seemed like this is something we could get done. So at the federal level, you asked about that. We're in the 117th Congress, the 116th Congress that just ended. Of course, passed the MORE Act through the House of Representatives. I'm sure you guys talked about that on your show because that was a big deal. And it gave a signal that this bill is coming, and this bill is going to go to the Senate, and it's going to be a Democratic Senate. And the 117th Congress may or may not pass this bill, but federal marijuana legalization is right here. They're probably obviously going to start with the banks. They're going to start making it legal for people to trade marijuana money first, and they always have to start with that instead of mom and pop. And anyway, they're going to move that forward. And at the state level, guys, this is the year. We are on the cusp. The Maryland General Assembly just started on the 13th this week. Go ahead.
Yeah, I want to pause you for a second, Luke. We want to hear this. Are you able to stay with us? We got to take a short break.
I'm going to stay with you as long as my battery.
Okay, well, let's take a quick break. We'll be right back with more Luke Jones from NORML. We'll talk about what's happening in Maryland. All right. Welcome back, everybody. Understanding CBD with Max and Steven. We are jam-packed with good information today. We're still have Luke Jones with us, continuing the discussion. If you want to be part of the conversation, you call us at 410-92-6680. Luke, when we left, we took the break. You just started getting into what's happening and what's in store for Maryland.
I'm so excited to talk about this in the segment here. As long as my battery holds out, we have HB 0032, which is a bill that has been introduced in the House, and we're working very, very closely with a sponsor in the Senate to get this thing through in the current General Assembly legislative session. HB 0032 is going to legalize cannabis possession and use for adults. It's going to legalize home cultivation for adults. It's going to provide for a preference for family-owned production scale business operations as opposed to super, large, well-financed multi-state operators. Super excited about this bill.
Yeah, Luke, appreciate that. And we want to have you back because we want to talk more about this bill and other bills. We really, really appreciate you joining our show. I want you to let the audience know one last thing. How do they get a hold of you if they want to follow up or if they want to support you or your cause in any way? And finally, I want to know your thoughts about hemp because I know you're specific about marijuana, but how do you feel about hemp?
Absolutely. Hemp is the future, all right? We're going to come back. We're going to talk about hemp because I know that's a real deal. This thing about the marijuana, we really get in here to the issues about personal liberty and individual freedom and what's the proper use of our police. This other thing about hemp and the medicinal and other applications for this plant, we'll start talking about the market potential and where that's going. Mm-hmm. So people want to get in touch with Maryland NORML, marylandnormal.org. That'll actually now bring up our Facebook page, which we're using sort of like a blog to keep everybody informed. We're literally posting on there every day. We have weekly public-facing meetings through Facebook Live. They're recorded. You don't have to have a Facebook account to click on this stuff. It's public. And there's a ton of information. We have Lobby Day, February 9th, 10th, and 11th. Register for Lobby Day so we can schedule an appointment for you, other people from your Senate district in Maryland, to meet with your elected officials to talk about cannabis legalization in the state. And that's how people find us, marylandnormal.org.
Luke, thank you. Keep fighting that good fight. Stephen, I believe we have it. We have Kevin Addicks with a hemp update actually on the line, right?
Yes, that's right.
Thank you, Luke.
Yeah, Luke, thanks again, buddy. Thanks for staying on as well. We have Kevin Addicks from Hemp Maryland. Kevin, you on the phone?
I sure am.
Awesome, man. Thanks for joining us today and filling us in on what's happening from the hemp side in Maryland because, we have a lot of listeners that are not only using our hemp CBD product or concerned about it, but we also have a lot of people that listen that are farmers in Maryland.
Right.
We also have people that are in the business or make investments and so forth. What do you got for us that's happening on the hemp side in Maryland?
Well, a couple of things. And again, thanks for having me on and making time for this. it was great hearing what NORML had to say. We've got our own issues in Annapolis, both pro and con. The first is that there's a good bill that adds a seat for hemp on the Maryland Agriculture Commission, which is a governor's commission for all ag. And the good news about that is it increases the legitimacy and really puts hemp kind of in the power play in terms of agriculture in Maryland. So that's a really important step. That bill number is HB 232, and it's sponsored by Delegate Fraser Hidalgo, who's the legislative hemp champion out of Montgomery County. And then we've got a bill that's come back from last year. I was on this time last year talking with you about a bill in Baltimore County, or coming from Baltimore County, that would prohibit hemp being grown near farms. This is a variant of a bill that was killed last year, and it's HB 249. And this basically says that if you're growing hemp within 25 feet of a residence or within a certain distance from 3 or more residences, you either can't grow hemp or you have to do it indoors with all kinds of filtration. And the problem with that is that most people who grow hemp live on their farm. And so, the step one is anyone who lives on their farm won't be able to grow hemp. The second is Maryland, as you know, we've got huge development pressure, so our farms are getting chopped up. Most farms abut another residence. And so, this would have a really deleterious effect on the industry. So it's no good.
Yeah, who's behind the bill?
So that's Delegate John Cardin out of Baltimore County is the sponsor of the bill.
Gotcha. Okay. So, and what district is that?
That is. You're asking me the trick question.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. All right.
Yeah, it's his district, but it's for the entire state, so it's a statewide bill. It's not a Baltimore County specific. All right,
bill. Gotcha. So, if people were to want to weigh in and give their opinion, what do you suggest, Kevin? Should they reach out to you and help? How would you suggest our listeners follow up?
Yeah, they should. They should sign up for Hemp Maryland newsletter. Go to hempmaryland.org, and you'll see a way to sign up for our news blast. You can also follow us on Facebook as well. We're posting information. The hearing for the bill is actually coming up this week, so we'll be sending out a blast tomorrow, just letting people know what the next steps are.
So the hearing, how are they doing hearings now with COVID? Because I know we used to go down to Annapolis. Are they doing them through Zoom now, or what's the process?
It is, yeah. Everything's virtual, and it's seeming to work well so far. But the more contentious bills have not been heard yet. So most of the bills being heard now, it's you hop on Zoom, and it's really quick, easy, no questions, you're in and out. I wonder what it's going to be like for bills that would have had hearings going into the late evening and into the early mornings. I don't know how that's going to work on Zoom.
I guess we'll find out.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Comeback. I would think that given the stress everyone's under right now, that the government would back off a little bit and try to make some decisions on things that really make things easier instead of trying to limit our farmers. Anyway, Kevin, thanks, man. We got to take a break. When we come back, we have everyone's favorite segment that you know as
Yes. Thanks, Kevin.
Thanks, Kevin. Thanks, Noah. Talk to you soon. Welcome back, everyone, to Understanding CBD with Max and Steven. I am Steven Wallman.
I am Max Sobel.
And we're back here this Sunday. Beautiful Sunday coming to the end of our show. And we want to thank our guests for today. We want to thank Kevin Addix from Hemp Maryland for keeping us up to date on what's happening in Maryland with hemp. We also want to give Luke Jones from NORML, Maryland's executive director, a huge thank you for giving us an idea really what's going on in the legalization process in Maryland and giving us some things to inspire us too. Someone who gives up so much for something other than himself.
Yeah, clearly.
Is an inspiring story to me for sure. I don't want everyone to forget that next week we have Doc G. He wasn't able to make it to this show today, so if you're tuning in a little bit late, you didn't miss Doc G. And the good news is next week you're going to get a whole episode of Doc G.
You get double the Doc G.
Double the Doc G. Noah, thanks in the studio today also. You did a great job.
Your beard is looking good, Noah.
I was going to say about the beard. Of course, we want to thank Max and Stevens, our lovely sponsor. Stop by maxandstevens.com. Try their CBD drops. we have so many stories about the things that it's helped people with. People may not know, but we have our next batch actually right around the corner, don't we, Max?
That's right.
Excited about that. Batch number 6. We are small craft. When Luke was talking about small businesses and
that is
craft,
us.
that's us. That's our category. So to know that there's something in the bills potentially to protect us, that's important.
Yeah.
So let's see. This is an interesting topic. When people may not know this because it's on the censorship theme, but because we are a cannabis business and it is stigmatized, we're limited on where we can advertise, and we can't advertise like most other companies on Google or Facebook.
And that's the topic of this week's Mail Sack.
You've got mail.
Thanks for reining us in there, Max.
No problem,
Got
buddy.
ahead of myself.
That's no problem. No problem. Because you're passionate about a subject, which is censorship.
Very passionate.
And the Mail Sack segment is all about censorship. And, and for the most part anyway. And so we take this very personally because for those of you that don't know, we are actually censored as a small business, believe it or not. And when I say censored, what I mean is that most companies can use traditional forms of advertising. They can advertise anywhere, and especially in the world of digital. We cannot advertise, for example. We can't do Google ads. We cannot do Facebook ads. We can't do Amazon legally.
To give you another idea of how censored, when we have a customer that's satisfied with our product and
Right.
writes it on our website that they were happy that it helped them sleep,
we cannot post their review.
We can't post a review on
We
our
cannot
website.
post their review. So, I mean, this is something that steams our clams, no doubt, right?
Yep.
We're censored, and it's a problem, and we always have to get creative workarounds, right, Steve?
Yeah, and working with people in the industry that are talented that can help with this. So we've had a lot
Like
of
Jade?
meetings. Huh?
Like Jade?
Ooh,
How'd
yeah.
we do there?
Is that too soon?
Might be too soon. They don't know what we're talking about, and it doesn't matter. But one of the things that we've been doing is we've been looking around for a lot of good marketing help, and marketing help is marketing help is hard to find. I was about to say it's good to find. We wish. There's agencies that we've talked to, and I want to tell a story because this is appropriate for MailSack. We were introduced to an agency that came to us. I would say highly recommended. Yeah. And when we started speaking to this agency, they didn't want to work with us. And the reason why they didn't want to work with us is because we're a marijuana company. Again, they thought we're a marijuana company. We're not going to go into the details of whether we're not or not. We are or aren't. You hopefully know by now that we're a hemp company. But the point is that this woman said that she was a family person, and she didn't agree with that concept. What do you think about that, Stephen?
Yeah, it did sting a little bit when she said, well, we're families. We have families, and we can't support this type of business with a clear conscience. And, Max, I want to thank you, actually, for that meeting because you graciously said, hey, I appreciate you bringing this up front and just politely ended the meeting because underneath, that is an opportunity for me to just really ask a lot of questions and understand, what's going on. But it's a testament to the information, the true information that needs to get out there. It's being filtered through so many different layers. It helps motivate us to keep going and doing what we're doing. It
was disheartening, and we chose to end that relationship before it ever got started because that was ultimately what was best for everybody. You also have another great story that happened this week at when the dentist chair, right? You were horizontal, and the dentist hit you with what?
I have actually two personal stories I think that are pretty good. The dentist one is first, but the best part about it is I got the best dentist. Sat down in his chair after they were doing the cleaning. He's just checking me out and. First thing he says is, hey, you still got that discount code on your website?
I love it.
And then I said, yeah, of course I do. Of course I do. For those that know us, if you don't, reach out to us. If price is an issue, we never want that to be the reason. We have a fair price on our product, don't get me wrong. But sometimes people want to buy bulk and do something else. Never hesitate to call us. We love working out with you. The second thing that happened, which, Max, you'll really appreciate this, was when I was at the vets this week for my dogs.
Yep.
Was at the vets getting some blood work. Annual, they just turned 1. Happy birthday, Coco and Nilla.
Happy birthday, Coco.
And getting their blood taken and asked the vet, hey, what do you think about CBD for dogs? And she's fantastic. She said, it's not CBD, it's hemp. And it needs to be tested and a good source, so it was really good. But we do want to leave you with something since tomorrow is Martin Luther King Day, one of my favorite quotes. Love is the only force capable of transforming an enemy to a friend.
Visit us at www.understandingcbd.com. Call us anytime, 443-743-2444. You can call or text that number. God bless you all. Thank you for joining us this beautiful Sunday. We'll talk to you next week.